Yo, check it out, I gotta speak the truth about the hardest working small channel in the crypto booth. He's the crypto father, the one and only, putting in the hours, never
I love pie. Don't you love pie? A nice cherry pie or an apple pie? With some whipped cream or ice cream on top. Yummy. Welcome back to the Crypto Father channel. Today is the 28th of March. It's a Friday. Hallelujah. Today I'll be talking about pie, but before I do start talking about pie, of course we're going to have a look at the market and the charts, and then I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of going through some of the articles circulating and talking about the white paper. There's also going to take a look at the pie white paper and talk about the price potential for pie. Never thought I'd be making videos about pie, but here we are. I guess never say never. That's the lesson to take from all of this. $2.9 trillion. It hasn't budged since yesterday. That's the market cap. 58.6% Bitcoin dominance. Ethereum with a dominance of 8.19, and then the rest of drivel is just down the line, somewhere below Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin back down at 87,000. It's going to have a hard time breaking above the $90,000 limit. Ethereum at $2,000. BNB at $639. Solana $139. Dropped a little bit. I think it was at $147 or something like that. Cardano at 73 cents. Toncoin $3.97. All in green. Very nice. We should be really talking about Chainlink, because Chainlink has got something cooking there. There's something brewing for Chainlink that's pretty big. Litecoin $92, and Picoin on place 29 at $82. Somebody commented under my last video on Pi saying that Pi is price is higher than that of Cardano. It's true, but I mean, everything else put aside, price doesn't really matter that much. Now, does it? I mean, we're all here for the tech, right? Right? On the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin is right now trending above the 200 MA, which is good. The 10 MA has broken below the 200 MA, and all the other MAs have aimed. They're like firing towards the 200 MA. So the hope is that none of them will reach it. The 10 MA will revert and break back above the 200 MA, and we're going to see another leg up on Bitcoin. But so far the chart is looking pretty good. I know that there are talks of bull traps and all that stuff, but I think we're going to see a reversal of the trend for the foreseeable, for the next little while at least. Like I said, I've made some quirky predictions here. I think we're going to see a massive pump on Bitcoin coming up here shortly, followed by another retracement before we see a giant pump in the month of June, July, post-June, July, actually September, October, June, July, I think should be where we should see the first pump and then a retracement. There are things happening. There's a lot of money that is going to be released into the circulation. The US government is making some decisions. There are things happening in the US government that are going to push the prices for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies way up. There's a lot of liquidity going into the market. So I think that is going to be the buy the news, buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event, just like we saw with Trump. And so we're going to see a pump here, I think, and by the time June, July comes around, when everybody expects the pump to take place, that's when we're going to see a retracement. And then post that, once the waves accumulate more from the noobs and from the retail who are panic selling during the months of June, July, we're going to see another pump towards August, September, when the crescendo and insanity and total greed will reach its maximum, and then we're going to see retracement sometime towards the end of the year. That's my prediction, but who knows what's going to happen, right? So Pi, I've been having an exchange on my channel with a Pi supporter, which was good. It was interesting so far, and clearly the person is very passionate about Pi, and I assume that's basically the majority of the Pi supporters, right? You know, all that aside, we need to be real. I understand that people are passionate. I mean, when you've been clicking away at your phone for the past 5 years, and now finally this thing that you've been clicking at has been released onto the markets after five long 5-year wait, it's only natural that people build, very strong attachments to the things that they've been pounding their fingers at for the past 5 years. So I understand all that, I understand the enthusiasm, but let's have a look at the articles and see what the articles are actually saying, and we'll look at some charts and some numbers, and we're going to look at the Pi white paper. Pi network outlook: bearish pressure and weak demand spells trouble for Pi. Basically, there's a lot of sell pressure for Pi and not a lot of demand, with the exception of the people that have been committed to Pi over the past 5 years. The communities that have been built, I don't think that there's a very high demand for Pi as a token outside of the ecosystem. I mean, it's not like, there is a future, not like most people are foreseeing a future. The people that are presently in Pi are the same people that have been in it for the past 5 years, and also the visionaries who believe that Pi has a future. But there's no way that a newly released coin onto the markets will all of a sudden instill confidence and want of purchase into just random strangers out on the street. Pi's checking money flow CMF has maintained a downward trend since March 14th, reflecting the weak buying activity among market participants. You have to understand that the coin, or the token rather, has been mined via cloud, via your phone app for the past 5 years. Okay, there was no buying activity. It wasn't listed on exchanges. There was some buying activities of some random stuff. I have no idea. There were claims that Pi was being sold for $21 and this and that, but I think that was in the form of IOUs, because I mean, it wasn't an active coin until recently. It wasn't listed on exchanges and it wasn't transferable in any way, shape, or form up until recently when the mainnet launched. So there was no buy pressure, and right now after the release, again, there is not much demand for Pi as a token. At press time, an indicator which tracks how money flows into and out of an asset is below zero at negative 0.21. When an asset CMF declines and falls below zero, it signals weakening buying pressure and increasing selling momentum. It indicates that capital is flowing out of Pi as traders intensify profit-taking efforts, exacerbating its price decline. Once again, for the past 5 years, people have just been collecting Pi for free, or the IOUs for free. And now that it's finally over, now that it's finally accessible, people obviously are taking advantage of that. The human mentality is that when you receive airdrops, this is why the idea of airdrops is not something that a lot of projects tend to do, because they understand how humans and human mentality works. When you're given something for free, you don't value it as much as when you put effort into it or you invest money into it. And clicking away at a phone is, it's not really considered effort. Most of us don't consider it as effort. So financial incentives are the way it's at. When you plunk your money, when you invest money into something, it becomes a lot more valuable. And Pi has not nobody's invested money into Pi for the past 5 years. People have just been collecting the numbers on the screen, and now that the numbers have kind of become accessible, now people want to monetize on it. So people are a lot more eager to take the money rather than keep the Pi. The sustained drop below zero reinforces this bearish outlook and hints at further price declines as long as Pi sellers remain dominant. Further, Pi's awesome oscillator has returned to red histogram bar with its value of negative 0.6. The indicator tracks short and long-term moving averages to confirm or deny market trends. It helps traders assess whether bullish or bearish momentum is strengthening or weakening. When the AO returns to red bar, the current histogram value is lower than the previous one, signaling an increase in bearish pressure. Traders use this as an early warning to exit long positions and prepare for a possible market reversal. Then there's the Pi chart, which is very similar to a lot of other coins that have been released. We're going to look at some other coins that have been released on TradeOgre, because it does list a lot of proof of work coins. It's maybe questionable for trading, but the point is that you can have a look at charts and how coins perform on by looking at the charts on TradeOgre. And new release coins have a similar pattern. they are released at a high price, the price dumps, then there is some accumulation period, and then there is a sell which continues into infinity for the coin to never recover. Basically, the second bump is the tokens or the coin's all-time high, after which we see a decline into forgetfulness to basically the levels at which the token or coin was launched, and then we most of the time never see another all-time high ever again. And so Pi has a similar chart right now. The channel emerges when an asset's price moves between two downtrend sloping parallel trend lines, indicating a sustaining bearish trend. If the price is poised to break below the lower trend line, it signals intensified selling pressure and an acceleration of the downtrend, which could lead to further losses. If Pi breaks below this support floor, it would add more downward pressure on its price and could force it to drop to 62 cents. A couple of days ago, I brought up the article of Bybit and Binance, who were basically calling Pi a scam, and they rejected the listing of the token. There have been reports suggesting that Binance, one of the largest exchanges, has rejected listing Pi coin. However, an official statement from Binance is still missing, so the situation remains unclear. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. You may want to tell yourself that it's okay, that, you know, we're still good, Pi is still good, but it isn't. This is just, again, the wishes of the masses who have been committed to mining Pi on their phones, are hoping that this is a positive. Reports say that Binance has explained its decision not to list Pi coin due to several reasons. These include Pi network still being too centralized and not having an open mainnet. Binance has stated that Pi coin can only be listed once these issues are fixed, with decentralization and an open mainnet being key to the process. Pi coin fans and investors have quickly reacted on social media, saying that the reports are false. Many believe that Binance's claims about the mainnet being closed is incorrect. The mainnet is open. It launched on February 20th, one Pi coin supporter pointed out. Some people argue that because Binance hasn't officially confirmed anything, this news may just be a rumor. There's no official statement from Binance saying they rejected Pi coin, so that shows there might not be any truth to the reports. I don't think that Binance is required to issue official statements saying that they're not listing coins. I mean, they do issue statements saying that they are listing coins, but why would they be issuing statements saying that they're not listing coins? If they're not listing it, then who cares? It's completely pointless. So this is absolutely redundant. And again, this is just wishful thinking on the part of the people who are holding bags and bags of Pi. Will Pi fall below 10 cents this week? That didn't happen, but there are a lot of bearish signs. Pi has lost nearly half of its value in the past 30 days as sellers have taken full control of the token's price action. A steep downtrend has emerged since early March, and the charts already show that Pi has made multiple lower lows along the way and could soon drop to 50 cents. I would like to bring your attention to a very recently released token by the name of Hamster. Hamster Combat was a mass success on Telegram. There were millions of people, like 50 million, which is apparently the equivalent of how many people are right now using Pi. The Pi ecosystem is about 30 million strong or something like that. Those are the claims that are being made. And yet, Hamster Combat, it dumped and continued dumping. And when you thought it hasn't dumped enough, it dumped some more. Granted, Pi right now is retracing. It's at 82 cents. I think that was the price tag for Pi. 82 cents right now. Here's another statement from Ben Zhu, the CEO of Bybit. Here's an official police warning of Pi from Chinese police back in 2023, warning to the public that it's a scam target towards elderly folks, which leaks their personal data and loss of their pension. There are multiple other reports out there. So the reference that this was justified with was that there were some Pi impersonations, and it's very likely that this occurred. And so the Pi that people were being warned against in 2023 was not actually the official Pi token. So granted that, but there is that stigma that is hanging along with Pi. And so the likes of Benzu, you know, one of the biggest crypto exchanges alongside with Binance, that's two big crypto exchanges in China who have already announced they will not be listing. Well, they haven't announced, Binance hasn't announced, but they're not very eager to list Pi. And you would think that with a mass following like that, like Pi has or supposed to have, the exchanges would be throwing themselves at listing Pi on them, because in a lot of cases when with a token with a massive support is in the works, exchanges do like to take these projects on, because then they collect a lot of money from trading fees, and so that's a good thing for them. But this doesn't seem to be the case with Pi. There's only a few exchanges that have backed Pi. Let's have a quick look. Actually, Pi has been listed only on a handful of exchanges: BitGet, OKX, Gate.io, MEXC is a big one, so that's pretty good. Digifinex, CoinW, never heard of it. HiBT, and then there's AXT.com, and then OKX is listed 3 times, so essentially it's just 7 exchanges. Momentum indicator flash sell signals. How low can Pi go? Can Pi coin realistically hit $3 all-time high again? Beside the bullish setup on Pi coin's hourly chart, other signals show a bullish Pi network price prediction that it can realistically reach $3 again. Not really. How old is this article? Most indicators from what I've read so far are showing a bearish signal. So not sure what this is talking about. So there's a chart showing a breakout right here. There isn't much in terms of bullishness. The hourly chart shows that Pi coin broke out from a descending parallel channel. However, it is reversing to test support at the upper trend line. If this support fails, it could cause a resumption of the Pi network bearish trend. And so this is the reference to this. So we've got the channel breakout and now testing the upper levels here. In Korea, there's the good news. So in Korea, like I said, there is a community of people. There has been a community of people that has adopted Pi. There is a video I watched recently, and I wish I had saved it for you guys to show. But basically, there's a city in Korea that has actually adopted Pi, and there are a bunch of stores that are now accepting payments in Pi. So it is being used. It's a good thing. But that city itself is full of an older generation of people who have been basically convinced that Pi is the way to go. They don't understand anything about cryptocurrencies. They don't understand anything about the tech. They just know that on the phone, somebody is giving them money and they've been clicking away, and they think that they can make money. In the interview, they were talking to the residents of the town who believe that Pi would go to $50 or even $100, or I think beyond that. Pi stores in Korea have transitioned to 100% full Pi payment based on the real-time Pi market price. As uncertainty has been resolved, the number of stores inquiring about registration with Pi Store has increased from 532 to 541 stores. Pi future of Pi is bright. Hold. Just to be clear, this is one small city in South Korea. It's not all of Korea. This is just one small city in Korea. I don't remember the city name, but it's not all of Korea, and it certainly isn't the rest of the nation that is, talking about it. This reveals why Pi Network hasn't been listed on Binance and Coinbase. But again, this is just a theory. This is a theory by an analyst. Dr. Altcoin Analysis on X ascribes the detailed listing of Pi to a lack of transparency from the Pi core team, specifically to opaque nature of Pi Network's locking and burning mechanisms of billions of Pi coin may be the primary reason of the continued absence of listing. And before you go ahead and shun this, we're going to jump into the Pi Network, the actual white paper, which is as opaque as the statement indicates. I now better understand why Pi is not listed on major exchanges such as Binance and Coinbase. Likely, the Pi core team has not been transparent enough about the locking and burning mechanism involving the billions of Pi coins currently owned by the PCT. The analyst previously noted that the circulating supply of Pi coins decreased by another 10 million to 676.66 billion. In other opinions, this suggests that the Pi Network core team could adjust the supply to sizable prices, and that is still the case. The absence of transparency makes it easy to misconstrue this as potential plans for market manipulation. He further suggests that Pi Network may eventually gain listing once the Pi core team improves transparency and most community-held coins are traded for under $1. This speculation aligns with recent concerns about Pi Network's centralization issues, particularly concerning supernodes being encrypted, reported concerns about network control and governance transparency. There is significant community support, which is clearly enjoyed and visible in a city like the city in South Korea. And by the comments here below this on Reddit, there are people in Kurdistan apparently who are also involved in it. And apparently there's a Binance survey that was going around in which 86% of participants wanted Pi to be listed on the exchange, and yet Binance has not taken the steps to list it, so it doesn't look good. Pi has two white papers. There is original from 2019 and an updated version from 2021. We're going to look at the updated version from 2021 because I think it's a little bit more relevant. We've got token, model, and mining. What I want to know is the Pi supply, so I jumped on to Pi supply. Pi Network's vision is to build the world's most inclusive peer-to-peer ecosystem and online experience, fueled by Pi, the world's most widely used cryptocurrency. All fine and dandy. Free mainnet supply. This is important right here, and kind of tells a story of the overall supply and why it's questionable. Driven by the vision to make Pi the world's most widely used cryptocurrency, distributing Pi and making it accessible globally further added to the focus of on growth. Pi's consensus algorithm relies on a global trust graph, which is aggregated from the security circles of individual pioneers. It was therefore critical to incentivize pioneers to form individual security circles. And individual security circles, I assume, means that people, because in order to get more Pi you had to invite people, and so the idea was to basically invite more people into the circle to create more income for the people who invite people to use Pi, as it's done with so many other applications right now. But this meant a supply of token available as mining reward that was not explicitly capped before mainnet. So there was no cap on tokens. They didn't put a specific number. That is a huge difference. Basically, this means that they could produce willy-nilly as many tokens as they possibly humanly can. It's like the unlimited money printing machine that the US government employs in their money producing schemes. At the same time, maintaining long-term network incentives is important. As explained under the mining section, the network adopted a mining mechanism where the network mining rate halves every time the network size increases by 10 times, resulting in a series of halving events when it reaches various milestones and engaged pioneers. The next halving event based on this model would be when the network reaches 100 million engaged pioneers. Currently, we have over 45 million engaged pioneers. From what I've seen somewhere else, right here, it says over 30 million engaged pioneers. The mainnet supply model with a mining mechanism tailored to accessibility, growth, and security has bootstrapped a community of 30 million pioneers. So maybe this is the number that was initially there, and now they're claiming that there's 45 million. But so basically, the network needs 55 more million people to start using Pi in order for another halving to take place. And a simple accessible means to mine Pi on a mobile phone. In doing so, the network avoided the extreme tokens concentration evident in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, preparing itself to become a true peer-to-peer decentralized ecosystem with a large enough volume of participants and transactions for utility creation. This is something that I think is misunderstood by a lot of people. The idea of a functioning payment system. I think naturally we jump to the conclusion that that is a good thing and that should push the price up. When you stop and think about it, the reason why, one of the reasons why Bitcoin is not a means of payment, but rather is a means of storing value, is because of its ridiculously high price. Nobody wants to go to a coffee shop and buy coffee with a Bitcoin for how many ever Satoshis that would take, because they know that the price that they pay today could be a lot more tomorrow. So I'm not going to buy a coffee with 1,000 satoshis that cost $5 today, because that 2,000 or 1,000 satoshis tomorrow could, buy me 2 coffees. So I'm not going to buy coffee with that. In order for me to buy coffee with a cryptocurrency, that cryptocurrency has to be low in value. It has to be stable. It can't increase in value. Saying that a cryptocurrency is a means of payment should suggest that it's stable and it's low, and there is a wad of it available so people could use it at those price tags. This is one of the reasons why I think Pi would not be increasing in price drastically, because if it is to be a means of payment, then it needs to be at a low price, and there's got to be a ton of it. And of course, again, it wouldn't require, we're not talking about Pi replacing the entire monetary supply of the world, right? That's preposterous. So the last thing I would like to quickly have a look at is the chart. So this is the chart of Pi right now. This is on the daily. Weekly it's just tiny. This is a chart pulled from the OKX exchange. This is what it looks like. And it has a very typical pattern of release, then a pump reaching its all-time high, and a slow decline, quite possibly reaching further lows. Why is this chart telling? Because it has catastrophic similarities to a lot of other charts. This is Trade Ogre, and we're going to have a quick look at charts of some of the tokens that were released. Cubic, one proof of work coin that was released a while ago. This is the chart of Cubic. Release date, dump, all-time high, and then a slow decline with some occasional bumps here and there. Here is Zealous, another token. Let's put it on a weekly. Release date, dump, all-time high, and a slow decline into forgetfulness, even lower than where it was released. The price tag is still pretty good. It's at $1. What is it? $2. Wow. Okay, so it was released at like $45, and right now this was a highly profitable coin when it was initially released. Obviously, as you can see, mining this coin could have made you a ton of cash, but right now $2. Noxa, another one. Noxa has a longer chart, but you can see it right here on the weekly. Release, dump, all-time high, and then a procession of very, very, very lows. This was released, Noxa was released in 2022, 3 years ago. Proof of mine project. Even Dogecoin, as you notice, he had a release date, then a dump, all-time high, and then a retracement. Unlike Bitcoin, which you can see was released here, and then it had a pump, a dump, a pump, a dump, and now we're seeing all-time highs, recent retracement. But you see the difference between charts like Bitcoin and the charts of most coins, proof of work coins, most projects that have been released over periods of time. They follow a very similar pattern. This is Ripple, XRP. XRP was released here, dumped, and this is, I guess, the SEC announcement. Look at that, it pumped. Slightly different, right? XRP is way above where it was when it first listed, and this was listed in 2022 as well. I think this is where Trade Ogre started. So with the looks of this, and I know that people are going to say, oh, this is a very new coin and a very new token, and Pi is it just came out the door, but it doesn't have an EVM machine. It doesn't have a proof of stake. It doesn't have a cap on how many coins there will be. Things are being burned left and right. There is a lot more releases, like millions of tokens are going to be released from the pioneer stashes, and that's going to bring a lot more pressure, more sell pressure on the market, on the price of Pi. And so, thinking that this is going to go back up to $3 is wishful. Will it go up to $1? Maybe, but what I foresee is a pattern in which we're going to see an up and then a further retracement, and then maybe there's going to be another buying opportunity, and then a selling opportunity, and then the buying opportunity and the selling opportunity, because at every high there is profit taking, and once it reaches a certain low, then there is a rebuy at another high, at which point more profits are being taken. This is what I foresee for Pi, but I mean, I don't know, but that's my feeling, because I simply don't see there being enough demand. And even if there is demand, in tiny little cities. It's somewhere in the backwoods of South Korea. It's just going to be that Pi will not see a massive global adoption and is not going to become the next monetary system of the world. That's certainly not the case. So I don't foresee Pi to go anywhere. Not with the news that we're seeing right now. But who knows? Who knows? Never say never. This is my prediction. This is my forecast for Pi. If you enjoyed that, smash the likes. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. If you disagree with me, please make sure to let me know why. Do it in a civilized manner. Let's have a conversation. Let's not argue and let's not bicker, but leave me a comment and let's have a discussion. I hope to see you there, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a fantastic weekend. CryptoFather out.